Welcome to Dave's FAVE500, the next in the series of videos I'm making on 500 good to great albums that are worth the time of any serious music listener or lover. And inevitably there are going to be some famous albums in this list, and I am definitely going to have at least one of those opening this video. So here we go. I think this is number 26 in no particular order, by the way. So there's 5 videos before this, and they're on the playlist, the Dave's FAVE500 playlist. So if you're curious about the albums that I'm recommending, you can go back and scan through those videos quickly to work out albums that you also may have and may enjoy. But anyway, first album today is, I've never worked out what this album's called because there's no title on it, but I've seen the cover around. It's this one. Anyway, Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. What can you say about this? We've all got a copy. I'm sure that we've all got a copy. It's the album that came out the year after I started buying records, and even then it was the record that everybody needed to own. It is the concept album that Floyd made that pushed them into the stratosphere when it comes to success. And they were one of the lucky few bands who managed to follow it up with equally good albums. But this one is absolutely iconic, and for good reason. It's a concept album. Roger Waters wrote all the lyrics. Kind of takes you through the journey of life, kind of birth, time passing, mental illness, the pursuit of money and wealth and status, and then eventually physical and mental decline and death. So grand themes, but it contains moments of great beauty. I mean, I absolutely love the opener, Breathe. Time is fantastic. Us and Them is great. It's a bit patchy. You have to listen to it from beginning to end for it to make sense, other than plucking out the standout tracks that, like Money, which was released as a single, and maybe Us and Them stands alone, and Time certainly stands alone, but it's so much better if you listen to the whole thing. But we all know that anyway. I've got multiple copies. Over the years, I kept buying additional copies, new pressings, new remasters and all that. But I picked this one up at a charity shop. I think it cost me about £1, and I think they call this the first pressing, which has got the solid blue triangle in here. But don't get excited. There's no posters or stickers in this particular version. The record is battered to hell. Loads of groove wear. There's a scratch at the beginning of Money, which makes it jump. But it's nice to have in the collection. Anyway, Dark Side of the Moon, an essential album. Somebody else that I think initially got a leg up from the support of through the support of Dave Gilmour from Floyd, of course, is Kate Bush and Kate's second album, Lionheart. This is the peak of my interest in Kate Bush. I can't possibly understand why, but there you go. Second album didn't have the big single on it. 2 singles released from the album in the UK, Hammer Horror and Wow. Both kind of nothing as grand as Wuthering Heights from the debut. But I love this album. It's kind of got a warmth about it, an intimacy about it. People criticize it for kind of sounding a little bit kind of muggy and not crisp. And, you know, great things were to come. You know, Hands of Love was to come a few years later. This is 1978, by the way. But this is a beautiful album. It has this kind of cozy feel to it and this poignancy about it. You know, Oh England, My Lionheart, that closes at side 1, has that kind of poignant reflection on England and times gone by and stuff left behind. But I love it. I was lucky to be one of the relatively few people who saw her in 1979, the only time she toured the UK. She did a residency 10, 12 years ago or whatever at Hammersmith, but that was the first time she'd been on stage performing in her own show since 1979. And the show itself was very theatrical. It wasn't a rock show, loads of choreography. There wasn't a step out of place, shall we say, but memorable. And all we're interested in really is just being in the audience to see the lovely Kate. But yeah, I love this album. Is it my favourite of Kate Bush's? Might not be, but it's definitely an album that I keep going back to, and it certainly deserves its place in my top 500. What else have we got? Right, moving on to soul jazz. Stepping, I suppose, the last step before this guy became super successful with his album Gimme the Night, with tracks written by the great Rod Temperton, who was the writer behind most of Michael Jackson's biggest hits. But this is George Benson and the double album Living Inside Your Love. This came out in 76, I think it was. Or was it 78? Does it say here? It will say 79. It came out in 79. Picked this up cheap. Is this a cutout? It's one of 2 or 3 copies I've got of this one. This one isn't a cutout. But this is, if you know anything about George Benson, you'll know that he started in the jazz scene. I think he'd released about 15 albums before he got round to this one. But gradually in the 1970s, he moved from just simply playing virtuoso electric guitar with jazz arrangements into much more of a soul singer and guitarist. And that kind of creamy guitar and soulful, soft vocals, that blend is just made him just brilliant in my judgment. In the 80s, became a bit too polished for my liking. This is Gimme the Night's a sweet spot, but this is a fabulous album. It's the ones I pick out, the title track, which is written by Earl Klugh, I think, that plays acoustic guitar as well on the album. Steve Gadd plays drums all over this album as well. It's got a great version of Sam Cooke's A Change Is Gonna Come. Great version of Unchained Melody as well. Love ballads, beautiful. It's a lovely, lovely album. Sounds absolutely fantastic on Warner Brothers. 2 more in this video, and that is the Beach Boys' Surf's Up from 1971. Now, the Beach Boys were everywhere when I was growing up, and it was hard as a music fan who started to buy records in the early 70s, particularly if a person like me interested in classic rock and progressive rock, to make any time at all for the Beach Boys. But I started work in the mid-1970s, and there's a colleague of mine, Alan Metcalf, who hopefully is still out there somewhere. He had impeccable taste, and he was always lending me albums. Otis Redding Live in Europe is one that I remember a lot. But he said, make time for Surf's Up, because there's no fun in this album. It's kind of dark and brooding. The tracks are mostly slow. It's almost like a progressive album. The harmonies are there. The Beach Boys harmonies are there. And I'm not so much of a fan of the Beach Boys that I know the history of their history or the history of this period, what was going on in the band, and the psychology of the band and Brian Wilson himself. But this is a beautiful progressive pop album. There's one track, Student Demonstration Time, is kind of a bit up-tempo. It's got like kind of a rocky, crispy guitar on it, but the rest of it is got kind of this dark, kind of atmospheric feel about the whole thing, and which is summed up with the title track serves up with closes the album. But you've got Till I Die, which is famous as well. Feel Flows is excellent. Disney Girls, it kind of sounds the most Beach Boys track on this album, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Long Promise Road is great, and the opener, Don't Go Near the Water. This is another battered copy. I've got a couple of copies of this one. I bought a repress over the years. This is on the Stateside label. It still plays great. I've just played it just before starting to make this video. Absolutely wonderful. And finally, from 1976, so all the albums in this video are from the 70s. 1976, emerging from the pub rock scene is the wonderful Graeme Parker and the Rumour, and his debut album, Howlin' Wind. I think Rolling Stones magazine gave this album 5 stars. 5-star debut. And it wasn't a one-off either, because the next album, Heat Treatment, was equally good. And then he went on to do Squeezing Out Sparks. Stick to Me is in there as well. Another great area. So many great albums. This guy's had an amazing career. Now, this debut includes, is it the only hit single he had? Modest Hit. Hey Lord, Don't Ask Me Questions. But I saw them in the 80s. I saw him just a few years ago playing solo in Chester. And he's still, even though he's quite a diminutive figure, he's still got that feisty kind of arrogance about him. He knows, this guy is a guy who knows he's good. And if you don't know Graeme Parker's music, it's reminiscent of Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. As you've got this tight band, kind of that rock and soul vibe going through it, with a horn section which is there in all the right places. Great songwriter. Absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So that's it. That's my album number 30, I think, in Dave's FAVE500. Graeme Parker. If you don't know him, please go and discover him. Anyway, there you go. I'm done. See you next time.